وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. وبعد, we're on Surah Al Baqarah, verse 25. In the last session, last week, we looked at verse 23 and 24, where the challenge, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave a challenge to the unbelievers about the Prophet to produce the likes of this Quran, even one surah, the shortest surah of the Quran. And it was in the context that the Quran is the proof that he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is the messenger of God. But in verse 24, and this only happens in this occasion when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala challenges the unbelievers. He said, فَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا وَلَن تَفْعَلُوا فَاتَّقُوا النَّارَ الَّتِي وَقُودُهَا النَّاسُ وَالْحِجَارَةُ أُعِدَّتْ لِلْكَافِرِينَ. Verse 24, if you cannot do this, and you will never, then beware of the fire prepared for the disbelievers whose fuel is men and stones. This type of language from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala represents the majestic nature of the divine. Hellfire, the adhab of Allah, the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is perhaps the most powerful manifestation of the ghadab of Allah, of divine wrath. We have Jamal and we have Jalal. The majesty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of those who turn away from Him, is seen in the greatest when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks of punishment in relation to hellfire. And here, for those who doubt that the Prophet is a messenger, and who dare to challenge him, even though the words that he brings could not have been written by him, it could only have come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If people time and time again keep on denying him, they have 13 years to respond to the challenge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala closes off the challenge in the harshest of tone by saying, فَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا, if you cannot do this, وَلَن تَفْعَلُوا, this is tawqeed, this is to emphasize the point, and you will not be able to do this. And again, think from the mind of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It doesn't make sense for him sallallahu alaihi wasallam to speak in this tone unless it came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It doesn't make sense for him to, if he was just another human being, and he's not, but if he was just another human being, and if this was penned by himself, there's no way, it makes no sense that you would speak in such a tone. The fact that he speaks in such a tone gives an indication it's beyond him. These are not his words. And then when we look at the description of hellfire here, just Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions here just one point, which is something that's mentioned on occasions in the Quran. It says, فَاتَّقُوا النَّارَ الَّتِي وَقُودُهَا النَّاسُ وَالْحِجَارَةُ. Beware of the fire, whose fuel is men and stones. What's worth noting here is the stones, not the men. You throw a human being into a fire, he can burn. You throw stones into fire, it doesn't burn. It hardens. Rock will harden if you put it into fires of this world. But the fire of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the very fuel of that fire is stones and rocks. And in the direct instance here, the stones and rocks that we refer to as the idols that they're worshipping. But it tells you about the intense nature of the heat of hellfire. Because the Prophet had seen hellfire, and he described it to us. And he said originally it was just a normal flame, and then it became white. It continued burning until it became white, and then he said it carried on burning until it became black. And he said now it's black. That's the nature of the flame of hellfire, and you don't see flames of that nature. It's so intense, the heat of it's so intense that rocks will melt within it. Or عِدَّةٌ لِلْكَافِرِينَ. So that's the tone for those who dare to challenge the Prophet after. It's not that you can't challenge, but if you're going to look at 13 years, you've had the chance to look at the proof. You asked him, and time again he brought the proof, and still after that they still want to challenge him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala seals it off in the most harshest of tones. But then verse 25 changes it. You'll see as we study the Quran, you see something that's known as a targhib wa tarhib, or tarhib wa targhib. And it's sunnatullahi fil Quran. It's something that's virtually absolute in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never threaten with the punishment unless He mentions the other side of mercy. Nor will He ever speak of mercy without mentioning the threat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never speak of one without the other. You will always find that within the Quran. No, I'm not aware of any exception of that within the Quran. So here, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks of punishment, He's going to balance it now by mentioning the other. We did Tafsir of Surah Al Mulk, and you saw that in Surah Al Mulk. In Surah Al Mulk, because Surah Al Mulk is a surah of power. It's all about power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then, after speaking about hellfire, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَخْشَوْنَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَيْبِ لَهُمْ مَغْفِرَةٌ وَأَجْرٌ كَبِيرٌ. And 30 verses, just one verse speaks about divine reward. One verse, even though the surah is not about that. Surah Tawbah, 100 odd verses, all about waging war against unbelievers. Ends with 2 verses about the mercy of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You always tend to, you will always find this balance taking place. That's known as the targhib or tarhib, but Allah subhanahu encourages, and at the same time He warns and puts fear. He encourages and puts fear, because the nature of the human being, if you're always told reward, 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 mercy, 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 forgiveness, 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 you won't be scared about the consequence of failure. And you'll become like that one who never prays, never fasts, never reads Quran, never does anything. And you advise him, he says, Allah will forgive me because I'm Muslim. What happened there? He just got too complacent and too easy with divine mercy. And then you got the other one on the other side. You tell him punishment, punishment, punishment all the time until you just numbed him into a state of fear. And he can't do anything. And somebody many years back came to me and he said, I've read all of these verses of adhar, punishment. I just get numbed into a state of, I can't worship. Just said, read the other side then. Read about the other side. Because you're not meant to read them in isolation. You're not meant to read about punishment, just punishment. You're meant to read them together. So once you get to that side, you get into a state of absolute fear. That's the nature of faith. The Prophet told us, al-iman bayn al-raja' wal-khawf. A faith is between hope and fear. You must have both of them. Most times during your life, you're more inclined to, or you're going to respond more based upon fear. People need to be aware of consequence. Most people in their lives act based upon fear of failure. There are others who will act based upon motivation of rewards. There's others who will do it just because He's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's the highest level, Ahlullah ta'ala. There are those who are not interested in reward or punishment. They're just interested in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But they're the elite of human beings. For most people are pushed by fear, the fear of failure. Some are pushed by the motivation of reward. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala balances it, and He speaks here one verse, verse 25, about paradise. The first mention of paradise in the Quran is verse 25 in Surah Al Baqarah. After speaking to the unbelievers about those who challenge the Prophet and giving them that warning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the first verse in the Quran that speaks about paradise, verse 25, Surah Al Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَبَشِّرِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ أَنَّ لَهُمْ جَنَّاتٍ تَجْرِي مِنْ تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارُ كلما رزقوا منها من ثمرة رزقا قالوا هذا الذي رزقنا من قبل وأتوا به متشابها ولهم فيها أزواج مطهرة وهم فيها خالدون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses the Prophet and tells him, give those who believe and do good the news that they will have gardens graced with flowing streams. Whenever they are given sustenance from the fruits of these gardens, they will say, we've been given this before, because they were provided with something like it. They will have pure spouses, and there they will stay. The first thing about this verse, the motivation about paradise. Who receives that reward at the highest of level? الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Those who believe and do good. Those who believe and do good. Belief by itself will take you into paradise. As long as you die on belief, it'll take you into paradise. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always going to couple the two together, put the two together. آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. It is not بِاتِّفَاقِ أَهْلِ السُّنَّةِ, by agreement of Ahl Sunnah. Even if you never did a good deed in your life, but you were a believer, you will enter into Jannah. There's no dispute in that. There's no dispute in that. You never did a good deed in your life, and you may have lived the worst of lives. As long as you have Iman in your heart, and you died in that state, you died mu'min billahi wa rasulih, you died as a believer in God and His Messenger, you will enter into paradise. Maybe not directly, but no believer will remain eternally in hellfire. That's an absolute belief that we have. But if you just start aman, alladhina aman, without amal al-salihat, then the amanu is in danger as well. Because what nourishes your iman? You want to ensure that you die in a state of belief. How can you ensure that? Ba'd Allah ta'ala, after Allah, because the only guarantee comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How can you ensure that? Ensure it to the best of human ability by amilu salihat. Ensure that you lead a life of goodness. If you're continually walking in the path of goodness, your daily routine is based on Allah and His Messenger, then it's very unlikely that you will lose faith. That's stated in Ali Imran. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells believers, have taqwa of Allah, beware of Allah in a real manner, in the real sense, and only die as believers. How can you only die as believers when that's only with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The iman and kufr is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we're all fortunate that we have faith. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can guarantee that that's going to stay. But He's told us something in this verse. You live by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger through your life, then you will die as a believer. You will die as a believer. So amanu, alladhina amanu, those who are guaranteed paradise, will be those whose faith is always coupled with good deeds. You're not a kafir if you don't have good deeds, but you're treading on very dangerous ground. A person going down that path never prays, never fasts, drinks alcohol, lies all the time. He's putting his iman in danger, because iman yazid wa yanqus. Iman increases and decreases. The power of your faith. When you're somebody, just one day, if your normal habit is to pray, just one day you missed a prayer, or maybe one prayer you miss, you will notice an effect on your heart. You'll notice. But somebody who never prays won't notice anything. Why? Even though he's a Muslim. Why? Because his faith has become so weak. His faith has become so weak. If you're tasting at the higher levels of faith, you slip, you're going to feel something. If you're always at the lowest level, slipping doesn't really make a difference then. Somebody's covered in filth and dirt. Filth and dirt. You throw some more dirt on it, won't make a difference to him. Somebody's pure, sparkling, shining, smelling, fragrant. You throw a speck of dirt on it, it makes a difference. It makes a difference. That's the difference between the people of God and the average believer. The average believer, he slips. He normally slips. Sinful believer slips, he's always slipping. Those people at the higher level of faith, one act of worship that's missed has a massive effect on them. So always remember, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Always go together. Because why? Amal al-salihat is what charges your iman. What charges your faith is that you do good. If you feel in yourself that you're feeling weak in your iman, there's no magical cure. You come to the shaykh and say, my iman's weak, so just get back onto your worship. Get back on you. Like, my iman's weak, so I ask him, like, how much dhikr did you do a day? How much Quran did you read a day? You're making sure you never missed a prayer? Worst thing to do is you miss your fajr because you started the day on a bad note. It's all catch up after that. So like, look into your day. You're saying your faith is weak. If your practice is weak in the day, then your faith will be weak. So you must ensure that your daily routine is based around ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then you will be from those people. If you are from those people of iman and amal salih, and you die in that state, and that's one of the most important du'as that we should always make. Always make du'a of husn al-khatimah. Always make, because when you get towards the end of your life, when somebody's old in his 60s and 70s, there's not much worship you can do at that time. It's when a person's in the youth of his life, like 12-year-old, 13-year-old, now they're starting on their way in life. Then you're in your 20s, you're in your 30s, you're in your 40s. 40s, you're reaching your pinnacle. 40s, you're reaching the peak of your life. But in those like 10, 20, 30 years, that's where Amil Salihat is so significant. Because once you start getting towards your 60s and 70s, like, whatever you used to do, that's all you're going to be doing at that point. With struggle, but that's what you're going to be doing. If you led a good life, then in your 60s and 70s, you'll carry on doing that. And if you led a bad life, there's no miraculous changes that will happen at that point. But then how you end will be how you lived. Your ending will be based upon how you lived your life. Those who say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasul on their deathbed are those who always said it whilst they were alive. But those who hardly ever said it during their life, the name of Allah never passed their tongue. It won't pass their tongue. If it does, it'll be a miracle with great difficulty to pass their tongue as the angel of death comes, because that's not what was embedded in their hearts. That's why Imam al-Junayd al-Baghdadi, when he was on his deathbed and they asked him to say La ilaha illallah, and one of the greatest people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said, I've never stopped saying that I need to say it now. That I've never stopped saying that I need to say it now. That tongue that moved constantly, stemming from the heart on his deathbed, it's not going to stop. So that's الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Those people who then die in that state, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then gives them a guarantee, أَنَّ لَهُمْ جَنَّاتٍ, that they have gardens, أَنَّ لَهُمْ جَنَّاتٍ, gardens, and then in the gardens, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now mentions 1, 2, 3, 4 rewards mentioned in the gardens of paradise. And one of the things about the gardens, because it says Jannat in the plural, he says in the plural, gardens. We know that Jannah has 7 levels. The highest of it is the Firdaus, and the highest of that is Al-Wasila, which is uniquely for the Prophet ﷺ. That's his rank, and he alone will have that rank. But the majority of the Sunnah are in the highest of paradise. That's part of the Taba'iyya with the Prophet ﷺ. Imam Busayd in his Burda, he mentions that. He says, بِأَكْرَمِ الرُّسْلِ كُنَّا أَكْرَمَ الْأُمَمِ, because he was the best of all nations, he was the best of all prophets, you are the best of all nations. And we receive ranks because of who he is. So he has the highest of paradise, therefore his ummah has the highest of level within paradise. The vast majority of Firdaus is populated by this ummah. Even though previous ummahs, they lived a lot longer than we did, 500 years, 1,000 years. We don't normally go beyond 70 years. That's the average lifespan of a person within this ummah. But despite how short our life is, the little that we do at Amil Salihat, Allah multiplies it so that we reach the high. 3/4 or 2/3 of paradise of Firdaus is populated by people of this ummah. As some of the people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, as though Firdaus was built for this ummah. As though Firdaus was built specifically for this ummah. So there's Jannat. And that's why even the Prophet he told us, he said, when you ask, don't ask for Jannah, ask for Firdaus. Don't ask for Jannah. If you're going to ask low, you'll get low. If you're going to ask low, you'll get low. And you must have been a very poor Muslim if you get into the lowest level of paradise. Because it's hard for people of this ummah who are going to get into paradise not to get to the highest. Because even if you got into the lowest, you got shafa'at of the Prophet. He's going to raise people to the highest levels of paradise just by asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's difficult for people of this ummah to get low unless they choose that. And unless it's as the Prophet, the way he described it, you refuse paradise. كلكم تدخلون الجنة إلا من أبى. He said, every one of you will enter into paradise except for those who refuse. For a person not to get into paradise from this one, it's hard to do that. Even though Jannah, حُفَّتْ بِالْمَكَارِهِ, the Prophet said, is surrounded by temptations, surrounded by difficulties. But because of who we're connected to him, we should get in there. And only if we want to turn our back on Jannah, only then are we not going to enter into Jannah. So the rewards, the first thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, تَجْرِي مِن تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارِ. مِن تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارِ. In paradise you have qusur, you have palaces. And palaces, these descriptions are nothing like the human, nothing like the worldly sense. We can't conceptualize the palaces of paradise. There's no similarity. We just know there's going to be a building structure. When we think of paradises, we're going to think about bricks and mortar, and however nice it is, it's still walls and a roof at the end. However luxurious it is, it's still of this world. So we know there's something called the palaces in paradise. We know that. But never put into your mind, don't imagine the best palace in this world. That's hellfire in relation to that world. The best palace of this world is like hellfire in relation to the palaces. There, Allah's just giving you some type of vision. Don't think palace, just think of a home of pleasure, of absolute luxuries, absolute comforts, unimaginable compared to this world. So every single one in Jannah, the least one in Jannah, will have palaces. And every palace of everyone in Jannah, you will believe there's nobody got better than you inside of Jannah. Like the nature of the reward, Allah is never going to make you feel that you're not in pleasure. So even though you're at the lowest level of paradise, nobody's got better than you. In your feeling, as you're sat there relaxing in your palace, nobody's got better than you. And then the description, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, تَجْرِي مِن تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارُ. Beneath the palaces, you've got rivers flowing. تَجْرِي مِن تَحْتِهَا, مِن تَحْتِ الْجَنَّاتِ. These gardens of paradise and palaces of paradise, you will have in your paradise rivers flowing beneath them. And the rivers of paradise, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions 4 rivers of paradise. Rivers of honey, rivers of milk, rivers of alcohol, and rivers of purest of water. And the four types of rivers within paradise. Rivers flowing beneath you. Anytime you want to drink from them, it's there. You have no effort in terms of drinking. Anything, any type of pleasure. Like here, somebody comes and brings you a cup of tea. There's a bit of effort involved in that. Even for you. Even, not just for him, even for me. I have to pick it up and drink it. There's some effort involved in it. Right. None of that within paradise. You just imagine and it's there in front of you. You just imagine and it's there in front of you. The moment you imagine, it's there in front of you. You don't need to go and do anything. You don't need to go and send somebody. No, even though you've got slaves and servants, people created within paradise to work for you. They don't bring it to you. It comes to you the moment you imagine. لَهُمْ فِيهَا مَا تَشْتَهِي. Anything you desire, automatically in front of you. So you have rivers flowing with...
Can I just ask one question?
No, control your desires. Leave that for paradise.
He just went from like this, like...
Could you read his desire at that point?
I tried not to.
If we're in the lowest part, but we won't know that, for us it'll be everything, then how will we know we're actually not in Firdaus anyway? Would it make a difference if we're not, if that's what we're feeling? And the other thing...
That's not the issue, it's the feeling. You will never feel that this is the worst that it, or the lowest that it is. You will know that you're in the lower Jannah. But in terms of what you're experiencing, you cannot imagine in your mind that there's going to be something better than this.
And the other thing is, so, like, you know, like in this world, we have family, friends and brothers. So
Yeah.
if I was within my house and I wanted to see my brothers...
You sure you want to see him there?
But whoever you want, then if you would be literally, it's not a physical thing of going over. How? Because I often imagine that. How
No,
would
it
that
is,
be
it
like?
is.
Then would that
It
be a
is.
physical thing where we
Yeah.
would go?
Yeah. Families are all on the same levels in Jannah. Families are always on the same level in Jannah. The ones who are highest will always raise up those who are lower. Families are always on the same level in Jannah. That's stated in the Quran. Al-Haqna bihim dhurriyyatahum. That those who believe and do good deeds, they will be in paradise, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will have their families join them, their children join them. Even though they're in lower levels of paradise, just by the mere fact, in a sense that your comforts, the greatest companionship you have is with family. They're the ones you can relax with the most. They're the ones that you feel most comfortable with. They're raised up to your level in paradise.
So we will be together, inshallah.
For sure. You're not going to break away from them at all.
Can I ask a question just on Jannah? Let's say, for example, parents inshallah going to Jannah, okay? I myself, for example, okay, you're doing your time in hell.
That's not for you.
For example. Okay, well, I'm just saying, the people who are in Jannah, okay, those people who are attached to them, okay, would they not feel that, you know, this person from my family or friends or whatever is missing from me in Jannah? What? Because
the first point on that, try and make yourself from people a shafa'a, because it's not just the Prophet as shafa'a.
yeah.
So you could be half of the Quran, for example. You're going to take people of your own family into paradise with you.
Yeah.
So if at the very least, just in case there are people in your family who it will happen that way, then just have it there that I hope that I'll be able to take them to paradise. But even if there are people from family, in Surah Yasin, what it mentions إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون. That word shughl there, shughl, because it says the people of paradise are in shughl fakihun. Shughl means amal, it means a job, occupation, work. Fakihun, enjoying it, amusing themselves. So the Mufassirin asked, why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say shughl in this context? There's no work in paradise. They said it's that, like, when you're working, you're busy and you're engrossed in your work, and your mind's in that work to the point you're not thinking about other things. They said the pleasures of paradise have got to the point where you're so engrossed in it, you don't think about other things at that point. You're just so immersed inside of that pleasure. And so the reason why is for what you mentioned, right? Because, alhamdulillah, leave aside the Muslim family. Let's say someone's got a convert. A Muslim can take him out of paradise because his family members are Muslim. Somebody who's got family members who's not a Muslim, they can't do anything. They can't do anything. So at that point, the shughl becomes more important. At that point, like for them, rather than to feel the pain of losing family who are never going to come out of hellfire, they're so immersed and engrossed in their pleasures, it's gone completely from them. Yeah. For those who are returning, who are not going to come out. For those who return, for those who can come out, then you yourself in paradise, you can do something about it. And that's the hope, the shafa'a, and you can sahib shafa'a. So just to finish off this ayah, it says, وَلَهُمْ فِيهَا أَزْوَاجٌ مُطَهَّرَةٌ. They will have pure spouses. Pure spouses means that the wives in paradise, men in paradise will have two things. He'll have his wife of this world, and he will also have hur al-ain, women of paradise. He will also be granted women. You like that, don't you?
I do.
Keep on smiling.
Is there a limit on them as well?
There's no limit. There's no limit.
Is that dependent on rank then, is it? The number of huris you have, is that dependent on rank? Or status?
Well, I don't
Get a
know.
bit too much now, boys.
What rank are you on? He's thinking I'm chairman, so I should be getting more.
He wants higher echelons of Firdaus, mashallah.
Chairman of the mosque,
Higher
getting higher,
echelons.
yeah?
No, with regards to piety.
No, I don't know. I don't know the answer. So pure spouses, including wife and including the women in paradise, the hur al-ain. Pure means that they're cleansed of like the issues around jealousy and any type of negative emotions of this world. All that's removed. Some of them mention pure means that there'll be no menstruation, right? Like the normal bodily functions that a woman has, that's gone now from you. Because one thing to be noted, human beings' functions are different there. You don't urinate, you don't go to the bathroom. None of that takes place inside the paradise. It's different. You sweat it out and you burp it out and it's gone. And that's it. That's the extent of it. Sweat and burp and it's all gone. No going to the bathroom inside the paradise. There's no toilets inside the paradise.
Sheikh, is it true that the time, will it be a morning time all the time, or does the time vary into, like you get day, night? Well, in Jannah, I heard that it'll be like the morning time.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah, it's constant. Yeah.
Constant morning.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no night time.
Do we offer salah in that in Jannah, or is that way? No.
Only for those who enjoyed offering salah in this world. Right, so there are some people that they just got a passion for prayer, and they just love to pray. They'll carry on praying. But that's not like I do it as an act of worship, because there's no worship. That's just because that's pleasure, and paradise is about pleasure. And then the last thing says وَهُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. The fourth point about paradise just goes on forever. It never comes to an end. Like the pleasures of paradise, it says, and there they will stay. Khalidun means eternal. It will never come to an end. Paradise, with all the pleasures, it just keeps on increasing, and the sensation of it keeps on increasing. So that's the first description of paradise within the Quran. Then verse 26, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about a criticism from the unbelievers, which we'll read about next week. We'll stop here. Any last questions? Imran? Smiling about paradise? You've been working for it. It comes.
I've seen ladies in this world, they're not beautiful from the outside, they're not beautiful from the inside, but they change, don't they?
Paradise,
is it a man's desire, but is it a man's lust, or what is it?
Doesn't really make a difference. Doesn't really make a difference, does it?
No, really.
Well, that's all about hope then, isn't it? that's a good look from hope. A lot of hope there.
Just imagine though, when we see Allah Even that all pale.
Yeah, all pale with living, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, you,
That's
have to,
what that-
you have to be spiritual. Then.
No.
You were talking about women. You were somewhere else. Oh, are you okay with that?
That is the point of.
Okay with that?
Can I just say something? When my dad was passing away, and when we was at the hospital one time, we were all there, and he was saying like.
So you still related?
Yeah, yeah. We're all there. And he was saying to everybody, move out the way. I mean, we were just. It was literally, you know what I mean, on back steps, you know. And he was saying to everybody, move out the way, move out the way. I could see Haji Fazil is somebody that he could see. I mean, we couldn't believe it now, but what you just said now, I was saying that to you before, that's related to us as well. So you do end up seeing your family there.
That's right. No, that's absolutely right.
I think the veils are lifted down.
That's right. Yeah. And because when a person dies or is about to die, the souls in that realm, they come and meet them. They come and meet them. That's why you saw the Thawab is so important. Like the more and more you send out to people, if you send it to the Prophet or to prophets and Salihin, they're the souls that will come meet you at that point. So just as you're about to leave, then you start seeing these souls coming towards you.
I mean, one of the amazing things was when my dad passed away. He was about a week in hospital, and I remember on one of the days, Zaid was with him, and this was a few days before he passed away, and it was like middle of the night, and my dad said to him, "They're here, they're here," and Zaid, my brother-in-law, said, everything all right, and then after about 2 minutes, the nurses in the next room, someone had passed away. So it's that vision that they have. You can see the angels and unbelievable.
Because at those moments, like they're losing control of mind, and now that realm starts becoming visible. They're more connected to that realm than this realm at that point.
The smile
Yeah, going back to what Qasim was saying, the thing is that the higher echelons of Jannah is going to be where you get to spend time with the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, you get to see Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala.
Yeah.
So having seen that, I know what you're saying, it's going to be a state of constant pleasure, but the pleasure you derive from that is obviously going to be far greater than any other pleasure that's provided. So that's what the point I was saying, Qassim's point was a valid one in the sense that, so why would you actually then want anything else though? Do you see what I mean? Because many, like lust or those things, that's like a worldly desire, isn't it? So that all of those
it's
things.
It's a human desire. We don't necessarily say it's a world desire. It's a human desire.
So you will still have those, but you'll.
Allah's what created human beings in that nature.
But we have other negatives, though, don't we?
Yeah, and that's when it says purified, pure spouses. Those negatives are cleansed out. But there are certain, like for example, desiring something of that nature is not necessarily negative.
Yeah.
No.
But I mean, before entering paradise, you'll be in a different frame of mind, won't you?
For sure.
There'll be a transition from how you are in this
Yeah.
world.
That's the river of.
I hope so.
No, it is.
You're recreated, even physically, you're recreated
Yeah, that's
into a
right.
different
That's
form,
right.
aren't you?
You pass through the river of life where you cleanse out completely.
Rather
Hmm?
Kofa where you drink from and then never
Yeah,
feel thirsty.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Will there be one of the things of this world in terms of pleasure is children and babies, and will that be in paradise?
Yes, there is. Yes, there is. That's mentioned.
Well, that you can have children.
You can, yeah.
Thought there's a cap on.
I want to wake Qasim up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Population in paradise.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that.
So will the population grow then in paradise?
Yeah, you can have children in paradise. You can have children. Just as women are made in paradise for paradise, likewise, children can be born in paradise.
So Jannah currently exists. Jannah has been created.
Yeah.
It's fully created. Exists.
Fully created exists.
Right.
Jannah and hellfire.
They both
Exist.
So it's not like in the process of being
No.
created.
That's the Mu'tazila belief.
But
The Mu'tazila who are outside of Ahl Sunnah. There's some groups outside of Ahl Sunnah. They believe that it will be created on the Day of Judgment.
Yeah, Aqidah, inshallah. I hope it's done.
He signed up, hasn't he?
Has he?
Hello. In spirit.
We'll sign him in tomorrow, inshallah.
In form and spirit. How in regards to, fair enough, we're talking about Jannah now, and we have to have the belief
Yeah.
that it's real, personally. But in regards to, if I was to go home and speak to my wife, because she's quite jealous in nature anyway. No, but speak
Like
to
most
anyone.
women.
It's harder for them because they're not cleansed yet, are they? They're in this world.
Neither are we.
No, but it's easy for us to
Yeah.
believe because
That's
it's
right.
quite nice. Yeah, but how then do I not hide the lesson? But how do you get? Do you see where I'm coming from? Then, because the first thing she said to me is, "How can you act and not me?" And I know what you said, where the nature of men and
Makes
women
a
are different. But if everything, all wrongs are wiped out, and all sin and everything that goes with it is wiped out, then
So is this being recorded?
Tell me when you want to stop.
No, carry on.
No, generally,
Don't do
it's
it.
not-
It's
it's
turn it
not-
around.
He's digging his grave at the moment. Carry on.
It's not to do with then. It's about now trying to increase our iman, to be honest, and because some people see that as they can't deal with it literally as a.
So you know the thing about description of paradise? That's based on pure faith. There's no rational basis for it, or there's no input to the rational. I always spoke about belief in God and the Prophet. We can rationally argue these things. What goes on inside the paradise, we're just told this is how it is, this is how it's been made, and that's the end of the discussion. So we can accept it easily because that's the nature of man. But the other description, paradise, like rivers of alcohol that don't get you drunk, for example. Like some non-Muslims say, what type of alcohol is that? I enjoy getting drunk. So then we just take it as it is. That's how it's been made. This is how this world has been made. That's how paradise has been made. That's how, like a fire that melts rock. What type of fire is that? Rationally. That's how it's been described. So the key point is there. It's the iman that underpins it. If that faith, absolute faith that whatever comes there, I'm going to accept it. It makes no sense in terms of iman. I'm not going to accept it because I just don't like what's being described. It either is or isn't. It's got nothing to do with what you. If some woman turns around and says, I can't hack a paradise that's got Hur al-Ain, in the women of paradise. Just get in there and deal with it after that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, what's the point of arguing about Allah made it in a particular way? He told you this is how it is. So you want to rationally argue about that? Argue with the Creator who's made it that way, saying, no, I can't have it that way. You're better off not arguing because there's someone else you can go instead.
It's what I think maybe Sheikh mentioned it, or one of our other teachers mentioned. I heard one said that if everything in your religion made sense to the intellect, then human beings would submit to the intellect and not to God. So there are points where it's just not about making it sense to you in terms of your mind. It's about the fact that you have faith and you accept.
Don't tell her anything when you get in.
That's the safest thing to do.
The thing is, though, you're limited, aren't you, as to how much you can comprehend. There's a
Well,
cap.
I don't even think it's a point of comfort. It's just acceptance. Like he's made it that way. Like what are you arguing about? Like if you can't accept it that way, then
I think a limit
It's
in
a
terms of
hellfire
trying
to
to
it.
understand that.
yeah,
Because we don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
we only drop in the ocean. We don't
that's
really
right.
know.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
And seeing seeing Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the next world,
Yeah.
they're going to have their own commercial.
Yeah.
I mean, because the whole world, we're all, followers of Rasulullah, everyone's got the desire to go and meet them and spend time with them. Is it going to be this huge this queue of people just,
Don't push.
how's that? Well, yeah, exactly. How is, just trying to think, this, they're in Jannah after how many years, hundreds, thousands or whatever, would you actually go and get to see Rasulullah and meet them and spend time with them? How, should they like on that?
In the hadith, they describe about the Prophet ﷺ when he was sat in a gathering with his companions, that every single one felt that he was the one. And
That's
if you
right.
could do that in the world, then paradise is not.
See, the other thing as well about that is that I would seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in paradise, people vary in terms of how often they experience that. Like the most is twice a day you see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's based upon their attachment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Same with the Prophet and those who have a greater attachment to this world, they will experience him a lot more frequently. Others, as with the companions in his time, there were those who were always with him, there were those who just once in their life they came and saw him for a moment and that was it. So people's experience of him in paradise will be different.
You just said twice a day. I mean, time's going to be constant. So how do you define a day?
A day as it would have been in this world. Because you're right, it's just daytime, there's no nighttime.
Sheikh, coming back to what Tahir was asking about before, in terms of your relationship, you are allowed to actually tell untruths in your marriage where you are protecting feelings, i.e. you are the most beautiful person, i.e. you will be the most special person for me in Jannah as well, inshallah. So you don't have to necessarily go that, no, I'm with the 700 or 70 or however number of
You just go back home and tell her that in paradise it's only you and there's nobody else in paradise for me but you. You tell her back alive, right? Yeah, you are allowed
because
to
you're
do
not
that.
actually putting, that's the one time you can, and you don't have to share all the other things as well, because that's the whole point. You know, that
You're right.
you can protect, but good women.
Shake is next week's electron hell just to bring us back down to earth.
Everyone's already got their place in paradise.
That's
so
right,
no.
yeah, everyone's...
Alhamdulillah.
Well, there's a lot of hope today, mashallah.
You know what,
We've
you
been
might as
doing
well
hope with
not
Sheikh
get married,
Ibrahim, and there's been no hope there until last week.
Can we do a few more ayats of Jannah? That's
No, I must admit, you know, when you're reading the Quran, you constantly, I mean, this is my own weakness, you know, you're reading about the flowing rivers, you think, oh, there's just flowing rivers, you know, flowing rivers, you know, it's mentioned so many times in the Quran about flowing rivers, you're thinking, well, what else is there in Jannah, you know, what else?
Yeah.
Everything's a test, inshallah. Just good in everything.
That's enough now.
Take some of the